Since I'm going to be doing some woodworking on this channel and stuff now, I thought I'd do a shop tour, so to speak. And most people make sure everything is in its place and nice and pretty. And I thought I'd show you what mine looks like after Christmas and then 2 following birthdays of creating gifts for people. And this is what I start with. My wife's car is in here. It's a 2-car garage. And as you can see, it's none too pretty. But let's move this car out of here, and then I'll start going through the different tools and things and show you what's going on. Okay, with the car gone, you can see a little bit more of what is here. Uninsulated walls. And, of course, there's this rat's nest over here. Let's start up here. Because right here, this is a freezer, so we do food, keep food out here too, so I got that taking up space. I got an old audio receiver up there for somebody's chucking it out for their surround sound system, and that is tied into, there's a old cell phone right there, and that plays my MP3s. That's what it's for. It plays MP3s through this thing, and then there's a couple of small speakers underneath the shelves. That's my pegboard up there. It's the old style pegboard stuff, and then I didn't like plain white, so I painted it to make it look like that. And down here you can see there's way too much stuff for the shelf. There's way too much stuff for the garage. This garage is for woodworking, it's for storage, it's for auto repairs, and whatever else needs to be done in the house. It's not just, I can't just keep focused on woodworking. So I don't have a woodworking shop. I have an all shop. Let's start with the Ryobi drill press, sorry. I bought that at a garage sale. And well, let's just go with this. That was at a garage sale. This set of Porter cable Forstner bits, I bought at the same garage sale, and the rigid oscillating spindle sander. Now I bought the 3 of those at a garage sale for $60. You don't have to buy new tools in order to do woodworking or to start yourself a shop. It came with everything. I guess they don't even come with that one from the store. When you buy a new one, you buy that one separate, the 1/2 inch I think it is. All right, there's the Portaband bandsaw from Porter Cable, and that one is for cutting metal. That's the way it came to me. It was my nephew's. He's an electrician. He got a new one that's, has the battery on it and stuff, so he doesn't need to plug it in. And he had that, and he asked me if I wanted it, and I said, sure, I'll take that. And it's amazing how often I forget I have it when I'm trying to cut metal, and then I remember. And then you see this box right there, made out of the 3/4 inch plywood, tucked into all that. That box actually has my air compressor in it. It's like a 20-gallon, I think, Coleman. My brother used to do scrap metal hauling, and somebody was throwing that one out. I don't want to try to get it uncovered because it's all buried in there. But anyway, they were throwing it out because they said it didn't work anymore. He took it home, opened the cover on it, and found a wire had come loose, plugged it back in, and it worked. But they had replumbed it, and it wasn't plumbed right. He asked me if I wanted it. I said, sure. And then I have since replumbed it so that it works as it should. While we're on the subject of my brother, the scrap metal guy, somebody asked him if he wanted this Delta chop saw. It's a compound miter saw. It's not a sliding one, so it only does that. But that's more than I had. He picked it up and brought it in. And this cabinet here that it's sitting on was one that came with the house when we bought the house. This cabinet was sitting out here in the way. So I made a plywood base for it with casters on it. And that's where I keep push sticks and stuff like that. All right, and this is my Ryobi 13-inch planer. It's an old 1301, and actually, I found that I use Nextdoor. It's an app, and I also use Craigslist to find things. And this one was on Nextdoor, and the handle was gone off of here, so I made this. It's maple and walnut, and then I made wings to go out here to extend it out. There's one on each side, and I've got a big shop vac down on the bottom down there inside, so that I got it hooked up to it so that it'll draw out when I'm running it. And then I made a modification. I was getting a lot of chips coming out of here when the wood came out. I need to put one on this side. This is a piece of leather, old furniture leather that I've got, and I attach that onto it, and that cuts the chips flying out. They'll puddle up right here and kind of push off the side, you know, what the vacuum doesn't get. But that keeps them from flying around the shop quite so much. Around the shop, around the garage. There's the vacuum down there. And it's got just a bungee cord. I drilled a hole into each side for the bungee cord to hook into. And that's how it just kind of keeps it in there. I haven't had any problem with it coming out because it's not, you know, not racing the Baja with it or anything. And the cart was just made out of scrap wood pieces I had laying around. Kind of like most things I do is made out of scrap wood. And this here is kind of the centerpiece of my wood shop. It's a table saw. It's a Delta table saw. This thing was made, what I'm finding is somewhere around 1958, 59, right in there. And it's only an 8-inch, so doesn't give me a whole lot of ability for resawing stuff. But for most of what I do, I don't need more than that. It seems to work well. I added this. You'll notice off the back of it, it's a little extension cord that was wired it into that stop switch there so that I could turn this part on and off, and then I just plug the saw into it. So I'm not altering the antique saw. And then I plug an extension cord into there, and there's no dust collection on this. You'll notice over here on this end. All right, so this end here is a 4-inch jointer. And once I cleaned it up, maybe I can put some pictures in here what it looked like when I got it. I bought it for like $50. A friend of mine had 2 table saws he wanted to get rid of. This was one of them. The other one was just a plain 10-inch table saw, and I wanted the jointer to go with it. So I settled for an 8-inch with the jointer, and I got it for $50. And you know, with good blades and stuff in it, it runs like a champ. It does a great job. So here's the motor side of it. Now, you can run it with both belts on it, and then it'll run table saw, jointer. You can go back and forth, whatever. I choose to run it with one or the other. That way, all the power is going to one or the other, not going to, you know, because that, even though I'm not using the jointer side when I'm cutting, there's still some draw on the power on that side. And it's just, that's the original motor. That's a Delta motor. It's 3/4 horsepower. So it's not a big cabinet saw, none of that stuff. But very seldom have I had a problem with it cutting. Cut cherry, maple, walnut, mahogany, oak, and of course, you know, plywoods and things like that. And I haven't had any trouble with it. It works just fine for that. I usually will run a circular saw blade in it, which is a little smaller than an 8-inch. It's more like 7 1/4, but it's also just a bit narrower. So I'm taking less of a bite, and it doesn't draw down the power quite as much. This end was open when I bought this. From here over was just open, and I did this. It's a air quotes router table. So I got the melamine with a piece of 1/2-inch ply under it. But I just got it plugged into this like the other side, so you can just turn it on and off right there. Almost like having a safety switch on the router table. Okay, there's the underside there. There's the Chicago Electric plunge router. The plate, the base is set inside the 1/2-inch plywood and attached directly to the melamine, which gives me enough space on top to work, but just barely. Okay, while we're down here, see, it's on wheels as well. These little paddles here, you push on that and that'll raise it up, and you can roll it around. You push on the other side and it'll drop back down. So yeah, everything I have has to be on wheels, basically. Now then, this is my assembly table workbench. I got the vise on here. This vise was my father-in-law's, and it's held on with a C-clamp. I can put one on each side, and normally whenever I'm not using it, let's move that out of the way. There's a bolt right here, comes to the inside, and I can just see this is mounted. There's 2 pieces of 3/4-inch plywood with just a hole through it that fits over that. I can hang that in there and hang a C-clamp on there with it and get more table space. This table is made the same height as the top of the table saw, so when it's all sitting down on its legs, I got it elevated right now. So it's an outfeed table for me. It's an outfeed table, it's an assembly table, it does it all. And then I hang the clamps off the side of it like that. I'm getting ready to take the top off, the top. There's 2. You can see the line here where there's 2 sheets. I'm going to take the top one off, which is screwed on from the bottom, so there's no screw heads up on top. I'm going to take that one off and then put a bigger one on so it overhangs a little more to cover over the motor on the table saw. But down there is a scroll saw, which a lot of people I know have no use for. It's like if you haven't seen one, it's more like a baby bandsaw. Has coping saw blades in it basically, and it's just powered, and it's really nice. I've just done some stuff where I needed one that I got for free from the same people I bought the planer from. I wanted the planer. I had enough money to buy that, and I paid $100 for the planer. But then I told them I was interested in the scroll saw if they could, if they got to a point where they were ready to turn it loose for cheaper than what they wanted for it, because I didn't have a lot of money, like most of us. And they called me back later in the day and said, you know what, nobody's interested in this thing. Why don't you just come pick it up? You can have it. So I went back to pick it up, and they gave it to me. At the same time, then they decided the other stuff they had for sale they wanted to give to me as well, which was it was a Ryobi table saw that was still in really nice shape, and a real nice radial arm saw, which I had no use for that either. So I gave those to other people I know and stuff, so passed them along. And then there's the toolbox here that's got just tons of tools and stuff for working on cars, working on house, drill bits and stuff, impact bits, and I got electrical stuff in there if I need to do wiring or whatever. So it's it's not just for woodworking, it's for a little bit of everything. And then I got a Ryobi palm sander that I use, and a Black & Decker type Dremel type tool that I use as well. And then I have there's a belt sander that I got at Walmart, and those things are not that good. And I also there's another couple of sanders and jigsaws, stuff like that. A circular saw that I've had for 40 years almost. But as you can see, the shelves in here are sticking out a foot and a half into the garage, storing stuff on them. And this wall over here, I got my ladders and what have you on it. Now we look up. You see all that insulation up there? I have no idea where that came from. That was there when we bought the house and moved in here. But I intend to take all that down when I remove the shelves over here. I take all that down and I'm going to put it in the walls and see how far I can go with that before I have to go buy more to put in. Start insulating. The garage door is insulated, but the rest of the room is not, which is almost counterproductive. But I'm going to hopefully get all that insulated. This spring, I'm planning a whole lot here. I'm going to move everything to the middle of the garage and just strip it out and start over because it's not working for me. I've tried adapting it, since we moved in here a few years ago and adapting to it, and it's just not working for me. So I'm going to try something else. But yeah, you can put things on wheels so they move around and get out of the way. I lost, half of a garage to tools and stuff like that, but my wife can still park in here, and that's fine. That's what counts. My truck won't fit in here anyway. And that is where the air hose comes to. I specifically got the one that does not automatically retract because I got frustrated with them. Couldn't get the hose out when I wanted it, or it would reel in when I didn't want it to. So I got one that doesn't retract. Oh, I didn't get it. The family got it for me for my birthday one year. And so, yeah, you can adapt, and you don't need a big fancy shop to do stuff. And I've done a lot of nice things from in here and from my old shop, which was a one-car garage that my wife could not park in. But here she can. So, see, that's about it. A lot of guys tell you don't get the Harbor Freight, but if you're doing it like I do, I don't do anything to sell. I'm making gifts. And that stuff works fine. If you're doing it as a hobby, it works fine. And some of the newer Harbor Freight stuff is just excellent. I mean, I watch guys that are, testing these things out against the brand names, and they're coming out right there with them. So, yeah, you can buy the less expensive stuff and get you started, see if it's something you really want to do. I don't suggest buying brand new tools and then deciding, gee whiz, woodworking is not something I want to do anymore. I want to do something else. So, anyway, that's the before shop tour. And hopefully soon I'll be able to do an after one.